I integrated Razorpay Gateway in my Node.js application. If you want to do the same, follow along. So this is the end goal that we'll be having. We'll have a click me to buy button, which when we'll be clicking, it will open up a Razorpay portal for us. We'll give it a card number. I'll tell you where to get the card number from. We'll give it a date, and then we'll give it some CVV, and we'll continue it. We'll secure the card. This is not my number, by the way. I'll skip the OTP, and there you go. It will make the payment for us, and we'll also have an option to make it as a success or a failure. Because this is just a demo API, we'll have to test our API in different ways, different scenarios. What if the payment failed? What if the payment passed? For both of them, we'll have a thing over here. I'll click success over here, and I'll also add up a way to validate the payment, which is given in the Razorpay documentation that you always need to validate your payment. So I have that whenever the payment is success. So I'll show you in the video that will follow. So stay tuned for the rest of the video. I have a project which has Node.js as the backend and ReactJS as the front end. I need to implement Razorpay into my project. So basically I need to write some routes in my backend, or basically Node.js, and some in my ReactJS, or basically my front end. I need to communicate between them so that I can make a payment using cards or UPIs. So I'm going to implement that gateway into a sample project. So I have my terminal open, and I'll start by creating the working directory. So for that I can do mkdir Razorpay tutorial. I'll go into this directory and I'll do a ls. Now this directory is completely empty. I'll start by initializing and creating the backend project. So I'll do mkdir backend. I'll name the folder as backend. I'll go into the backend, and then I'll start with doing an npm init. This will initialize the node dependency in my project. So I can start by giving the package name. I'll just keep it backend right now. The version will be default, and description I don't want to put it right now. Entry point can be index, git repository, keywords, author. I am just keeping all of that as default right now because this is just an explanatory project. So now since I have my project ready, I'll just do an ls. So I have my package.json file ready, right? I'll start by installing some of the dependencies, which is like npm install. I'll need Express to make a server. I'll need Razorpay, so that I have the libraries that I need to use to implement Razorpay here. I'll use NodeMon also, so I can have my server running and I can quickly debug stuff. Then I also need .env, so that I can have some environment variables configured for the key and the secret of my Razorpay account. I don't want to show them into the stream, so I'll use .env for that. I'll need course, so that my React can communicate with my Node.js project and course is not blocking that. And then I'll need a body parser, so that in my post APIs that I'll call from my React project to my Node project, the body that I'm passing as JSON can be passed correctly. I'll explain all of them when we are using it. So I'll just install all of these for now. I'll skip to when they are installed. Oh, it just took a little while. I'll just open my code editor over here, and yeah, of course I'll trust it. And then I'll zoom in, and I'll just zoom the folder as well. In my code, I can start by making the index file, because when initializing my Node.js project, I did give index as my entry point. So I have all of my dependencies, and I also have my startup point as index, right? So in index.js, I need to add the dependencies. So I'll start by creating the server by doing import express from express. I'll start by creating the app, which is from express. I'll start by creating my application, and then I'll need to use course to enable communication from my React project to the backend, so that the course does not stop my APIs. So I'll import that as well. Import course from course. And then I need body parser as well. So I'll just start by importing it. Maybe my libraries imported itself. Yep, it did import it. Body parser.json. So I need to unblock the JSON. I'll just delete this file. I'll start and I'll indent this, and I'll go to the end of this app.use body parser.url encoded. This is for extended true. This is for the URL encoded request. Then I'll also define a port up here, which can be constant port equals to 4000. Right now I am thinking of keeping the port as 4000, and then I will start listening to this port. So I can just do app.start listening dot port, and then I can just console log server listening on port, and then I can just write my port number. That is fair. I'll just go up for here, I'll start a terminal, and then I'll do node index.js. So it's giving me some error because there is already a process running at node 4000, so I can just do it 5000. Maybe it will work. Nope, 5000 also taken, so 4500. Yep, it started listening at 4500. The reason I use node and not nodemon is because I'll need to change it later on. So I'll quickly take you to the Razorpay website and just show you how to get the keys and how to set up the environment. So once you have signed in and logged into Razorpay website, you'll reach at this desktop after you have given your KYC details. KYC details are only required for the live mode, which is when you can actually get to receive the payments. But there is a test mode out there in which you can play around with the APIs and you can test the functionality in your app before you make your application live, so that any issues that come around with payment, you can test them thoroughly before going on to the live mode. So in the test mode, if you'll scroll down and you'll click on this more ways to collect payment, it will take you to your Razorpay dashboard. This dashboard is very important because it lists down all your payment, all your test API calls and everything out there. Now, one thing to note here is if you're creating the ID for the first time, you'll already have a key generated for you while you are creating that account. So for me, since I already had this account, I have that key with me, and I do have saved it inside my node process. Now for you, you might have that key, and if you don't have, then you can go on to account and settings. This will open up your account page. Then over here you have API keys. I'll zoom it out a bit. Over here you'll have API keys. You can just click on this and it will take you to this page. Here, this is the key ID, and obviously since I already have the secret with me, it will just give me option to regenerate it. So that's where you can get your secret, and you just have to copy all of that. Now we'll go back to our backend application and we'll set up some environment variable to hold this key and the secret. So again, let me list down again. Basically, you need key and secret from Razorpay website, and then that's it. So going back to our backend project, you can completely skip this section. Again, I'll put bookmarks up here. If you know how to use .environment, you can completely skip this. Here I want to set up the environment variable so that I can access my key and my password from there rather than having to hard code that in my code. So I'll just create another file which is env.test, and it is .env.test. So this will be some test module that I can use to load in my environment variables. Now the thing is that I will never push this into production. I'll use the environment variables of production environment to store these values. Now I do want to have the test secrets different from the live secrets. So I've created one as env.test and the other one I'll create as env.production. That can be used for production secrets. So over here in env.test, I'll create two secrets. One will be Razor test key, which will store the key value. And so I'm going to put this key and secret off the video so that I don't share or leak that. You can just put your key and secret here, and that's pretty much it. That's all you'll require from this file. So to use this file, I'll create another folder which will be config, where I'll try to use this particular file I'll create a new file, envloader.js, and this file will actually take care of importing both of these two variables. So here I'll import .env from .env. This is a package we installed initially. I told you we'll get to know why we need it. Then we also need path from path so that we can reference our native path. Now I'll create a function named constant get.env path, which will take an environment variable, and if the environment variable is set to test, then we can just return the env path as .env.test. Otherwise we'll return it as .env.prod, right? So since I don't have a prod file now, let me go ahead and create a prod file as well so that I can show you guys how this works. If you already know how .environment work, you can surely skip this section, right? I'll keep a secret same as this here also. And when we are using the prod file, we'll get the secrets from this prod file. When we are using the test file, then we'll get the secrets from the test file. Anyways, moving back to the environment loader, here I will use .env.config so that I can configure. I'll give the path as path.resolve, and then I'll give process.cwd, which will get the current path, and then I will be getting .env path from this method that I've used above, and I'll use a process variable as env.node.env.to uppercase to get which file I have to choose right now. Now I'll tell you how that works. There's a reason I didn't use nodemon up here to start up my process. That's because we'll be using this particular file to access our environment variables. Let me put some test commands up here. So in the key, let me for now put test key, and in the production, let me put prod key, right? So I want my env loader to take the variable based on the environment that I've selected. So I'll stop my node process. I'll give a separate command, which is node env. This is how we can specify our environment variables while we are running our application. So I am giving node env test. So if you correlate, this is where we are referencing the environment variable node env. It's the same as this. So if I'm giving test up here, that means it will go into this function and it will check if env is test, then it will pick up the env.test file. One thing that I'll do to show you that is picking it up rightly is like I'll import this file from here. Because see, always remember that you want to reference the environment loader file at the topmost directory, because maybe some of your functions that you have declared down want to use them, and then you create a dependency which is not available at that time. So you load it. The first thing that you do is load this file, right? So once it is done, then I can just do node.index.js. That's my command. One thing I'll do here is like console.log, and I'll try to print process.env. whatever this thing is. Okay, so I'll try to put it up here, and then I'll put enter, and see, we get test key, which is the value over here. Now if we try to stop this process, and if we try to run the same process without test or with production or with any other variable, because inside our code we have given that if it is test, then only give test. If I do here abc, then it's gonna, oh, the port suddenly is used because I used Control Z rather than Control C. So if I run with abc, see, now it is giving prod key because it is anything other than test. So this is how we are going to use our environment variables to load this test key and secrets. The next thing we are going to do are create the API ports. There are two routes basically that you need. So the first route is whenever you create any transaction on Razorpay, you have to first create an order. So I'll write it down. First create an order for payment. Without order, you can't have the payment. So for order, we'll create order.app.post, and then I'm going to create the route payment/order. So this will take up a request body and a res object, and then it will try to create that order for us. Now I'm expecting an amount to be coming from the request body.price. We'll correlate it with the front end once we are up there, but here I'm going to do this. Now based on the API, I can just open up the API real quickly, and I can show that. So here is the API for creating an order. For creating an order, you have one mandatory thing, which is amount, which should come as integer, and this amount should come as the smallest currency unit subunit. So let's say if you are using rupee, then the currency unit should be paise, and if you are using, let's say, dollar, then the currency unit should be cents. So that is some sort of it should be the smallest currency unit. So for Indian rupees, if you want to have a transaction of 100 rupees, you have to use 100 multiplied by 100, which is like the number of passes that you want to transact. So the currency is also required, which will come as a string. So going back up here, I can create an object of transaction options, which will take amount as amount, and I'm just trying to depict for USD right now. So let's say do 100, right? And currency, I'll do US dollars. For rupee, you can have it INR, and the above amount logic will be just the same. So USD, and then this will be my transaction object, and I can save it. Now I'll do a console log up here so that I know my order is running. I just want to put this console log so that someone following along is able to follow along as well. And here I'll create an order which will use the Razorpay API. So I'll create a new promise for it. So since the Razorpay does not offer a await API, I'll use a promise to make that API await, or basically to await for the response. So I'll have a resolve object over here, and I'll have a reject option over here. And then I can use an arrow function, and okay, I need to make this async. And inside the await, I can just use Razor instance. Oh, okay. Before doing this, I need to create a Razor instance. So for creating that Razorpay instance, I need to create a new file over here, which will be, let's name that file as new file Razorpay.js. You can name it anything that you like. I can import Razorpay up here, and then I can go over here. I can start a new Razor instance. I can create a new Razor instance. So basically, Razor instance is used to communicate between to do any operation on Razorpay. So we'll take the Razor test key from the environment variables, and key secret will also be process.env.razor test. I have used secret up here. So this is right, and I can export default Razor instance, right? That's it. That sets up your Razor instance, and here you can just import that Razor instance. I have imported it, and then I can use this Razor instance to create a new order. So order.create, and then I can use the transaction options, and I can get an error and an order details up here. So when if there is error, I can just reject the promise with the error. Otherwise, I can just resolve with my order. So once my order is resolved, I can just go out of this loop. I can just save it quickly. I can go out of this loop, and I can just console log order that we are getting. So this will display you the order details that we are having. We can inspect that once, and then once we get the order details, we can respond with JSON. I'm not doing any error handling here, expecting you guys to handle that on your own. So this will create an order for us. So that is something that we have to do. I'll stop the backend process here. I'll start by creating a frontend project and try to interacting with the frontend project so that you guys can link it. Till now, we have used environment variable for the key and secret of Razorpay, created an instance of Razorpay, and then we have created our order creating route. So I'm again on the terminal, and then we are currently in the backend directory. I'll go back one directory, which is Razorpay tutorial. So I'll clear up the terminal first, and then I'll use the white command to create the latest, or basically my front end project. So we'll start by this. It is asking me the project name, so I'll give front end Razorpay, and then it is asking which framework to use. I'll use React. I'll use JavaScript for now, but you can for sure use TypeScript as well. Done. I'll just go into my front-end Razorpay folder, and it is asking me to run two commands. One is npm install. Okay, so this is done. Now I'll open up my directory. I'll clean this up. I'll open up the directory, and this is open. I'll full screen it. Yes, I do trust the author. I'll just full screen it. So I'll just start by installing some dependencies here. So I'll install Axios because I want to make some front-end request. I'll install the Razorpay because I want to import or run a script related to Razorpay. You can totally do this into an HTML project as well. I'll make a video for that as well if you want. But I need to install just Axios and Razorpay in it. That's it. I'll start installing. I used J instead of Z, so I'll do that. It is installed. I'll go back here. I'll go into my src. I'll go into the app folder. I won't clean all the boilerplate code, but what I'll do is I'll clean this whole code, and then I'll start by writing my application. So over here, what I can do is I can create a smaller div. I'll create a div, and I can give a on click to it, which will be an async method of await and purchase. I'll just give it this, and I'll write click me to buy, right? That's it. That's all I'm going to give it. I'll remove the state also. I'll remove all of the boilerplate code as well, right? Now what we can do is we need to write this purchase method now. So over here, I'll create a new constant function of purchase, and I'll make obviously this async, and then I'll start by writing. Now I'll do console log at times, purchase method running, so that you guys can follow along. I'll zoom it a bit more, and then I will do a constant. Basically in the documentation of Razorpay, they have said that we need to load a particular JavaScript script into our page. So for that, I'll do res await load script method, and I'll copy up the script from where I've copied it, and I'll just post it over here. So this is my copied script, and we have to implement this load script method. So to implement this load script method, constant load script, and this will be an async method as well. It will take an src, or basically the link of that script, will return new promise and resolve, which it would, and inside it we'll create script script as document dot, we'll use DOM for it. We'll create element, and we'll put script up here, and then we'll do script dot src, which can be src. We'll give script dot onload. If the script loads, then we can just resolve our promise with true, and if the script give on error, then we can just resolve as false, and at the end we can just do document dot append child, which is script, right? So that's it. We have used res to append that script into it and load it. So if res is not found, then we can just alert that Razorpay failed to load, right? And we can return from here only. Now I'll create a sample project. I'll just move it up. I'll create a sample project, or basically, yeah, item, let's say I'll create an item, and I'll put the name of that item as 10. I'll put the title of that item as sample item. This is something that we want to sell, and I'll put the description as well as test description. Now what I want to do is I want to create the order first, order creation, for which I'll write initiate order creation, and I'll take item into the consideration. So I have to create an initiate order creation, which I'll do here. So this is nothing. I'll just use constant axios service. So I'll initialize, since my backend is running at port, let me quickly check. My backend here is running at 4600 port. So I'll just create a service with the base URL of http localhost 4600. That's it. That's going to be my base URL. And then when we have to do initiate the order creation, we'll take the details that we have passed here, which is like item details, and we will send a post request to create an order. So like I said, we need to create an order to initiate our transaction. So here we are going to set our order. So in the item detail here we have used 4600. So in the item detail we have to do constant initiate payment response as await, and then I can use the same Axios service dot post, and then I can use /payments /order, and then I can use item details that I've got from there. So now the flow would look something like initiate order payment response. So the flow would look something like that. We'll click on the method, we'll start from purchase, it'll run the script, we'll go up here, it'll create an order, this method will be called, it will hit our backend API, and in the backend API will be coming up till here. We'll creating an order, we'll returning the details of that order to our front end again, and in the front end we have to do something by using this order creation response. I'll do response as well. So that is pretty much our flow till now. Now what are we going to do by this order creation? I'll just do a console log of order creation response, and I'll just do order creation response. Let me start up this project and let's show you guys that how it works. npm run dev, let's do that. It will start up the project. It is at 1574. So it will be coming up here. If I inspect, if I go to console, there is Axios is not defined. Okay, there's an error. I forgot to import Axios from Axios, right? Now it should be fine. Now we can reload it and we get this button, right? Now the moment we click on this button, it is giving src not defined. Okay. So I had a small bug in my code, which is that over here I wrote scr instead of src. So once I can correct this as src and I use these two as src, then it's now. I can refresh it, I can click on it, cannot have more than one child of a document. Okay, it should be document.body.append child. White React project, and I can click to buy. And here we'll see the initiate order start, initiate payment, and all of these methods. So these methods are here. This method is starting, it will create an order, and if we go to the backend, we'll see the details. Let me go over here and let me try to scroll it down. I have the order amount, I have amount due, amount paid is 0 because we have created an order but we have still not done any transaction on this order yet. I have the USD and I have an order ID with me. So this ID is very important, and that's what we'll be needing when we return or create an order. So we have returned the order details to our front end, and in our front end or in our method of, I'll just make it down up here. In our purchase product, we have this order creation response that we have come up with, and we can use it and we can extract out the order ID. So we have already console logged it. We can go up here, we can increase this a bit, we can check the response, we can scroll it down, we can see data, then order, and then ID. That's the hierarchy over here. So constant order ID, which should be order creation response dot data dot order dot ID. Now this will store the order, therefore we have console log order ID, and we can just print it out once so that we have verified it. If there is any error, we'll get to know. We'll start by creating an options section. Now here is what we'll do to create our actual payment. So we'll use the key. This we can just copy out from the documentation, or these are the fields that will be required. We need the key that we have retrieved from my Razorpay API. So if I go up over here, I go onto the Chrome, I go onto the dashboard. Over here in my API keys, this is what I'll need here. So I can just come back up here, I can write that inside my keys, and then after that I'll need the amount, which will be my item. What was the name? Item. dot price, and we need to find the lowest denomination, so it will be inside cents right now. So the next thing that we need over here is currency. We will put USD right now. You can obviously make your own logic around it. We need name, so in name we can do item.title, and we can put a description which will have item.description. You also have a place to put an image, which I'll show you when we work around this. So here I'll just put https column example.com/your logo or something. You can put it over here. I'm not too bothered about putting it right now. And then you need an order underscore ID, which you will get from here, order ID. So I can just use the same order ID, and this is the payload that I need to send to my backend. Now I need to handle one more thing. If the user has made a payment, I need to verify it on my backend side. So I'll have to create a handler function. So I'll create an handler function, which is an async function, which will verify if my payment is made or not. Even if you see the Razorpay documentation, they also guide you to always verify if the payment is made or not in your backend. So for this, I'll create a constant payment payload. So here the payment will be made, but I need to send that payload to my backend to verify if the payment is made or not. So this payload will contain three things. One is order creation ID, which it basically I'll give the payload as order creation ID, which will contain my order ID. Then it will have Razorpay Payment ID, which is stored in the response of Razorpay Payment ID. We can obviously look at this response by console logging and then find out all this parameter, but since I already know, then we will have Razorpay order ID. Now this order ID is very different than this order ID. This order ID is the order ID of overall order that we created before. This Razorpay order ID is basically the order ID for the payment that was made. So we have to link both of these order ID. Again, this order ID is not same as the order ID over here. So this I'll map from Razorpay. Instead of payment ID, I can just do this as order ID. And then I can do Razorpay signature, and I can do response.Razorpay signature. That's pretty much what we have to do for our front end. Now one thing that we need to do is basically send this payload to our backend to verify the result. So this will be the result over here. I can create a method of verifying payment, and I can just pass on the payment payload, and at the end I can just console log the result to verify if this is, or we can do whatever we want to do with it, but for now I'm just console logging it. Now I need to create this verify payment method. So to create this verify payment method, I'll just create a verify payment method over here, constant verify payment, which will take my payment payload arrow function. Now I'll do constant verify payment response, and I'll await the Axios service. You can obviously name the service whatever you want. I'll create the route as /payments/success. So if the payment is success, it will go up here and it will take the payment payload. Okay, there is some issue. Yeah, I'll let my indenter log. I will console log the result that I've received, and that will be verify payment response, and I'll return that response. So this response will be returned up here as the result. Now one thing that is remaining, I've not yet created this API in the backend, so I'll start by creating this API in the backend. I'll write the API after this app, so this will be app.post. Again, I'm doing a post /payments success, and then I'll do a res and then I'll do an arrow function. Okay, we'll get a payment data, right? We'll get that payment data from rec.body, request.body. Okay, we'll create a verification result. Now we have a method available in Axios which is validate payment verification, right? And this will be automatically imported from this Razorpay distill utils method. And once we have this method, there is a payload that we need to pass through it. One is order ID. I can obviously go into the documentation. Let me know in the comments if you want me to go into the documentation of it so that you can reference more. But just for the sake of time, I'm not doing that. I'll take the payment data and then I'll do Razorpay order ID, which will be coming from payment data, which we have sent over here, right? Next thing that we need is a payment ID, which we'll take from payment data dot Razorpay payment ID, and then here I can do payment data dot Razorpay signature. Actually, I don't want to use this method because this whole method requires 3 parameters. One is order ID and payment ID, which will be the first parameter as a JSON. So I've used these curly brackets. Second will be the signature that we have sent from there to verify. And third will be our secret. Obviously, we need to use secret because how else will this verify? It needs to pass the JWT. So what happens is basically you get the signature is basically you get the JWT, and then you need to pass that JWT so that you can verify it. So if verification result is true, then we rest.send the status code of 200, that means it passed. Otherwise we send the status code of 402, which means the payment gateway is unavailable or it failed or something. So this will take care of our payment gateway. Now we have all our methods ready. Let's try it out. Now one last thing that we need to do, we have already created this options method over here. One thing is we have not called it anywhere, and there are a few things as well, that other things that we need to add. One is notes, which can be address. You can give your address of to whom the payment is made. To right now, let me put copy bugs, and then in the next one I can do theme, and I can do color. I'll show you where this color and everything is coming. #3399cc. I'm just copying out from the doc right now. And then this options that we have just created, we'll just use payment object, and we'll create a new window.razorpay, that the module that we just installed when we created our white app, and we'll pass the options to be used using this. It will take up the option, and whenever we click on this purchase, we'll just do payment object.open. So this will open up that window for the payment to start. So again, going over the flow, it will create an order, it will take these options, it will open up the window to make the payment. Once the payment is done, it will start this handler function to verify the payment. Once it is verified, it will give you the result. You can use this result as your state variable or anywhere to update the state of your application. So over here, let me go, let me refresh it, let me click on buy. The Razorpay portal is open. Now comes the card details. You need to have the card details ready with you. So basically, obviously you can't use your real money, so you need to use the card details. I have the link somewhere around here. Yeah. So Razorpay does provide you with some card details that you can use. So I'll just open this link up here. Yeah. Here it gives you some MasterCard link. So you can copy this card, come up here. You can give your mobile number. I'll just give any mobile number. Make sure it is 10 digit, otherwise it rejects it. I'll give my real ID. I don't want OTPs on my mobile number, so I'm just giving any mobile number. The card number pastes the card number that you're getting over here. In the month, you can give any date which is greater than today. You can do this. You can start. Yeah, I'll secure my card. I can skip the OTP because obviously this number is not mine, so I won't be getting an OTP. So I'll skip the OTP. This is my title, this is my description. It gives, now Razorpay gives me an option to either accept the payment or reject it. If I do success for it, it will process the payment. I am not sure why inspector is not coming over here. And once the payment will close, let me see it closing. Yep. There is some error up here. Let me quickly verify. Okay, so the error was, instead of data, I wrote payment date. So I need to write data. Okay, I found the bug. The bug was I used Razor instead of Razorpay, which was the key that I used over here. Here I used Razorpay. Here I just wrote Razor. So I can just make it Razorpay Payment ID. And also here we have to make Razorpay instead of Razor signature. Then I go back here, come up here, I click to buy. I use the same card. I use 123, yes, secure my card, skip the OTP, and success. Let's see if this works now. And there we go. We got the result. And both of them say okay. That means the payment has been made and it has been recorded. That's it. That's how you make use of Razorpay in your Node.js and your ReactJS application. Hey guys, if you really like the video, please do subscribe. It will help me grow my channel and motivate me as well. Thank you so much.